Jackson Smith and Jigba, Quentin Johnson, Zay Flowers, Jordan Addison. Which one of these receivers from the 2023 NFL draft class will have the best 2024 season? We'll talk about this and more coming up next.
You are Locked On NFL Draft, your daily podcast covering the NFL Draft. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Locked On family? Welcome back to the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast, your daily podcast covering your favorite draft prospects, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your boy, Damian Parson. You can find and follow me on X at DP_NFL. I'm a senior draft analyst, and thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today. And everyday shot for being our everydayers. You know, I got to get the intro to Mr. LSU himself, Keith Sanchez. You can find and follow him on X at TheTalentCode. You talk to him, baby.
What's up, Locked On family? Let's get locked in. This is Keith Sanchez, 2019 national champ, man, and the other side to this dynamic duo that we like to call the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast. I want to start this podcast off by saying shout out to our everydayers. Thank you for tapping in with us each and every single day. DP, we are talking year two wide receiver. Yes, this is a playmaker episode, man. Which year two wide receivers will be the best in 2024? We're going to talk about wide receivers that need to show up for their team in 2024. Then we're going to talk about some breakout candidates for those second-year wide receivers, man. It should be an action-packed show, so if you can hear my voice, go ahead, hit that like button. Don't forget to comment and make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel at Locked On NFL Draft. DP, before we get this conversation started, man, why don't you hit them with our title sponsor?
Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code Locked On NFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. The 2023 wide receiver class we had four back-to-back in round one: Jackson Smith and Jigba, Quentin Johnson, Zay Flowers, Jordan Addison. Then you got Jonathan Mingo, Jayden Reed, Rashee Rice. It was a good group. Tank Dell, you know what I mean, in the third round, a guy that a lot of people didn't want to believe in because of his size. Keith, when you look at this receiving class and you say, man, I got to pick a guy who's going to be the top guy at the end of 2024, when that January, whatever, the week 18 ends, who will be, in your opinion, the best receiver in 2024 from the 2023 NFL draft class?
DP, this is so tough because I have to go through it. And we always say situations matter for wide receivers, right? As far as they're the most dependent position on the field, right? It's just what I believe. All of these situations are wild situations, DP. You're running it back with Geno Smith in Seattle, right? Then you go to Quentin Johnson. You have Jim Harbaugh in town, so you think there's going to be a ground and pound situation. Jordan Addison, he doesn't have Kirk Cousins anymore. Jonathan Mingo, I am out on that situation. I'm gonna go Jayden Reed, DP. I'm gonna go Jayden Reed right now. I think he'll show up. I think he showed people last year there's a lot of talent in there. And I think as Jordan Love progresses, I think he will progress also. So if you ask me, like, my confidence meter is somewhere around 7.5 to an 8, right? It was either going to be Jayden Reed or it's going to be Tank Dell. But I'm going to go with Jayden Reed at the end of the day because I like the Jordan Love situation. And then also I didn't go Tank Dell just because they brought in Stephon Diggs also. So now you're talking about Stephon Diggs, Nico Collins, Dalton Schultz, Joe Mixon, right? Because what does that target? That's why I say it's tough. Honestly, it's tough for these 2023 wide receivers for the NFL draft class of 2023. But I'm going to go Jayden Reed. I think he's going to emerge as Jordan Love's number one target.
No, I would like to see him kind of emerge into that role. I mean, no, Christian Watson's coming back. They do have Romeo Doubs, but that guy that can just do everything, right? Like line up in the slot, out wide, backfield. He's the easiest guy to scheme the ball into his hands because of how versatile in terms of his alignment that you in the different places you can place him pre-snap. I think, of course, and I'm gonna get into Puka Nacua a little bit. Like I said, we're trying not to take the layups, but we're gonna have a Puka Nacua discussion in just a second. I'm gonna go to Baltimore. I'm gonna go to Zay Flowers, man. I think Zay, who had 858, receiving yards last year, he was the fourth receiver. Jayden Reed was fifth, right behind him, and of course you had Jordan Addison, Rashee Rice, and Puka Nacua. Rashee Rice, we know or expect him to be suspended. So like can't really, I don't think he's going to play the full 17 games. I think Zay Flowers is due for a big year. 858 yards on 108 targets. I think that those targets increase. Even though Mark Andrews is coming back, he was their best and most reliable weapon at the receiver position.
So
Rashad Bateman hasn't taken a step forward, right? Nelson Aguilar is Nelson Aguilar. Like, he's
yeah,
their best receiver.
I can't remember who was just on there. Was it Mark Schlereth? I don't think it was Brian Baldinger, but
Well,
he was talking about Lamar Jackson. Wait, what you say?
I think I know exactly what you're talking about.
And they had the conversation around, I guess, Lamar needing better wide receivers, and it was more so his job to elevate them. With this wide receiver core, do you think that Lamar Jackson, I guess, can elevate, say, Zay Flowers? Like, can Zay Flowers hold his own? Can Lamar Jackson help elevate? And then, I guess, combination would that result in, I guess, high levels of productivity? Because was it a short thing last year? No, you've seen good moments, but what do you expect when you're talking about that combination, especially with the rest of this wide receiver core?
For one, that Mark Schlereth quote, there's two things I hate in sports. I hate with basketball. I say, man, that guy makes everybody around him better. No, he doesn't. If you can't shoot the three ball, you're not going to shoot the three because I pass it to you and you're open in the corner. I hate that phrase. And I hate the same thing about quarterbacks. Oh, he's got to elevate his receivers. If that guy can't run routes and separate, we just saw that with Bryce Young, right? We saw it with Bryce. We've seen it with other quarterbacks. If the weapons aren't good, it just aren't good. But with Lamar and Zay, it felt like to me, and I think I talked about it with Bateman, Lamar to me trusted Zay early in that season. And I think with Todd Monken coming in, getting away from that Greg Roman tight end heavy, tight end centric offense, run game centric offense, they still run the ball. But I think Zay Flowers, for me, I think he's going to be that number one target in the passing game because of everything that he brings to the table, the speed, the run after the catch, the route running, positional flexibility. They put him out at the Z, the X, the slot. He lines up everywhere for him. And this is a guy that, again, if he doesn't fumble at the goal line against Kansas City, they might knock off Pat Mahomes, and we're having a different discussion about Lamar Jackson, right? So I think for him, they need that true number one wide receiver, and I think it's Zay Flowers. I think that's the guy that can beat man coverage, can beat zone, can be where Lamar needs him to be. And then when you think about the scramble drills, because then when Lamar legs do factor in and he gets away from pressure, Zay Flowers is the type of receiver that can quickly detach from his coverage and get to his spot, right? Get away from his defender and make that scramble drill an even more explosive opportunity for him.
Right. And I think there's two ways you can look at the departure of Odell Beckham, right? There's one side where, okay, maybe Odell helped draw coverage away from him, right? And you're saying, okay, that's what helped Zay Flowers operate last year. Then there's the other side where you can say, oh, well, with Odell gone, his target share will go up, right? And he'll get more receptions and more targets, things like that. So I just think it's two sides to how you could look at the Zay Flowers conversation. I started to go with Zay Flowers. That's why I was kind of like, okay, you picked him. Let's have this conversation around him because I started to pick Zay Flowers. But it's just, passing game-wise, making the transition to Todd Monken last year, having that situation, bringing in Derrick Henry. It's a to be honest, DP, when you look at it, right, for a lot of these 2023 NFL draft class wide receivers, it's a lot of interesting situations, I guess you can probably say, right? Jordan Addison probably had the most consistent / easy route, and then Kirk Cousins is now in Atlanta. So we'll see. But DP, let's keep this conversation going, man. Keep going through this 2023 NFL draft class. We're going to talk about wide receivers that need to show up in 2024. Which guys need to be present for their team to have success in 2024? We're going to have this conversation coming up next.
Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Game Time is an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to the first pitch with killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. And guys, Game Time is such a great app to experience, because not only do they give you the last minute tickets, but they have flash deals, zone deals, and their tickets are easy to find and buy for every kind of event in your area. So take the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code Locked On NFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, use the code Locked On NFL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. Second year receivers that we need to see and that need to show up. Keith, I think the elephant in the room is, and is probably always going to be our guy until we see it, Quentin Johnson, right? And I think with the Los Angeles Chargers, like now, just talk about Greg Roman, bringing Greg Roman and bringing in Jim Harbaugh, right? And they drafted a couple receivers, Lab McConkey, Cornelius Johnson, and Brendan Rice. You have Josh Palmer there. Like, they're going to run the ball. The play action game, I think, is going to be very prevalent in Los Angeles for those Chargers. And I feel like that's a perfect situation for him to step up, right? Isolated deep shots, one-on-one. You run the ball well enough. You know what I talk about, pulling the levers, bring one of them safeties in the box. Give yourself some one-on-one opportunities on the outside. Quentin Johnson has to take that step, because it's not like he's not a talented guy. 6'3", over 200 pounds, almost 34-inch arms, can jump out of the gym, has, breakaway speed, and he can run routes. It's all about just the confidence for him. The concentration drops, or as I call it, the confidence drops, where he wasn't confident in his hands. That was something that I didn't ding him for as a prospect. He wasn't a natural hands catcher. Well, neither was Le'Veon Bell, because he was a running back. And you know what I mean? And what did he do? He hit the jugs machine. He became a confident receiver. And I think for this offense, that I don't think they're trying to take a step back. They're trying to take steps forward and get back to the postseason, especially after you just paid Justin Herbert. They need Quentin Johnson badly to take a step forward. I'm not saying he got to be a 1,500-yard receiver, but they're going to need 1,000 yards. I think that's the threshold. Anything less than 1,000 is going to be a little underwhelming for me for Quentin Johnson in year 2.
Yeah, so this is a tough situation, and I wanted to pick him for segment 1, right? But bring up the Jim Harbaugh conversation, right? And just running the football. And also, they kind of took a Green Bay Packers approach towards the back end of the draft when they drafted. They went Brendan Rice, and I'm trying to think of who was the other late round.
Cornelius Johnson,
right? Two guys that are 6'1"-ish, right? Can run routes, detailed guys that we both like and we predict will have better NFL careers than college careers at the end of the day. So I wonder if they're going to, and they brought in Lad McConkey. So I wonder if this is going to be a situation where they spread the ball out. But I do agree that he needs to show up, DP, first of all, for us. You know what I'm saying? Like help you guys out, right? He'll help you guys out. But for this Chargers team to be balanced, because obviously you're going to run the football, I look at their backfield and I see good running backs, right? But I don't necessarily see a great one yet. Maybe Blake Corum can evolve into that, right? But it's just such a heavy running back room by committee. Well, Blake Corum, sorry, is with the Rams. I'm sorry. But
you mean Vidal?
Yeah, that's what I mean. I mean, Vidal. I was thinking of small in stature, right? Lower half, short area quickness. That's what I was thinking. Maybe Vidal can potentially evolve into that. But other than that, it's, they went and got everybody that man, who's the OC?
Greg Roman.
Greg Roman knows, right? Go get Gus Edwards. Go get J.K. Dobbins, right? So the run game is there. I wonder if he can crack 1,000. I'm going to go with this with Quentin Johnson. Quality. I need high quality targets, right? I need you to be efficient on third downs. When we in 3rd and 7, I need you to be that guy that we have to throw the football to, and you get open, you catch the football on 3rd and 7 for a first down. So I'm going to go more quality. I would like to see him crack that 1,000-yard mark, but also I don't want it in leisure time either, right? Like your step up has to be something that happens when we need it most. So that's why I'm gonna go with Quentin Johnson. Now, my guy, DP, my guy we just finished talking about, I'm gonna run it back, Mr. Zay Flowers, that needs to show up, and he needs to show up for everything that we kind of talked about for the last segment. Listen, Odell Beckham is gone. It's you now, right? Rashad Bateman, I can't bet on that situation anymore. If I'm the general manager, if I'm the head coach, if I'm Lamar Jackson, good player, maybe be my wide receiver 3, right? But he's been there for 4 years. I think him and Justin Jefferson were in the same draft class. It was just somewhere around
2021.
and somewhere around in the same draft class. So him is Justin Jefferson or Jamar Chase, right? But somewhere around there, these guys are getting paid $100 million contracts, and we're still trying to figure out where to place you in our offense, right? So we on 2 different paths in trajectory. So it's all on Zay Flowers. Zay Flowers last year went for 858 yards, had 5 touchdowns, right? This year, DP, I think he has to be a guy. Especially with the emphasis on bringing Todd Monk and them wanting to pass the ball more. He has to crack, I wouldn't even say just 1,000. I would want to say a 1,200-yard wide receiver, right? 1,200 yards, 90 receptions. And when I look at his targets per game, right, there was some games where it was 1 target, 1 reception, right? A couple games where it was 3 targets, right? Or 3 receptions. All of those need to be elevated. Like the floor for Zay Flowers any given Sunday, right, should be 5 receptions and hopefully somewhere around at least 75, 80 yards and more. Like it has to be somewhere around there. So that's why I went with Zay Flowers, is because this Baltimore Ravens team we seen last year, they were sticking to their game plan away from beating the Kansas City Chiefs and going to the Super Bowl. Extremely talented team. Cincinnati Bengals healthy. We don't know what the Cleveland Browns are going to be, right? But they could be a good team. The Pittsburgh Steelers have a quarterback. So just in your division, let alone all of the other AFC teams, they have to be a more well-rounded football team, DP. And when they run the football, they have to be able to pass. And I think Zay Flowers has to be that guy that can get open.
No, 100%. Like, 108 targets on the season. Mark Andrews, only playing 10 games, I think helped that as well. But like he was, for Zay being that not check down, but that quick option in the passing game, while Odell's kind of the intermediate deep option, especially early on. Then you start to see kind of the roles flip where Zay became the full option, like deep, underneath, intermediate, quick game, whatever it was. They started to funnel the passing game through him. And with Odell, like you said, Odell gone, you just hope. I mean, I think they gave Rashad Bateman a little bit of a contract extension, like a 2-year extension or something like that. They gave him a small deal. And I was just kind of shocked by it because I was like, we haven't seen anything to warrant paying him, right? And it's just that relationship between him and Lamar, I think, is just his trust. He hasn't been able to stay healthy and everything like that. If he can be a wide receiver too, this is the year for it. That's another guy who needs to step up. Because we need to have a conversation about Puka Nacua. And not so much that he needs to show up, not because he showed up big time last year, right? He showed up, he was broke the rookie record. He had 160 targets, 105 receptions, over 14, almost 1,500 yards receiving. I would like to see those receiving touchdowns go up, though. I want to see double digits for that young man. Do you feel comfortable that he's going to be able to replicate this? Because, Keith, I'm going to tell you, I do. And the reason why, and this might come as a hot take, and I don't do the hot takes, all right? I don't do the hot takes. But I don't think Cooper Kupp is who he's been throughout his early part of his career. I think getting close to that, I think he might be 30. I think we're getting close to that back-end stretch of his career. I think he's still good. But I think Puka Nacua last year kind of asserted himself. Matthew Stafford also asserted himself. Sean McVay asserted himself. I think that is the new wide receiver 1 for the Los Angeles Rams. I think that Cooper Kupp's going to be wide receiver 2. I think he can replicate this. I don't know. I want to say 1,400 yards. That's a lot of yards. But I do think he could have another really big season in this passing offense with Matthew Stafford healthy.
So, DP, what you're telling me is this is what you're saying, that Cooper Kupp is falling off a cliff? Is this your moment? Is this
I never said anything like that. Guys, don't at me on Twitter. I never said that.
I thought this was your moment, DP. You said you do hot takes.
Remember Max Kellerman tried to predict the downfall of Tom
Brady?
No,
that's why I said that.
That's
why I said that. That's why I said that I was messing with you.
Won't have me on sound bites, baby. Not a chance.
I thought this was your moment, man. I thought this was your moment. I thought you was going for a DP. Absolutely. But listen, man, I'm right there with you with Puka. I think instead of 1,400, right, if him and Cooper are able to split 1,200 or something like that, you're talking about a balanced offensive team. You're talking about beware of the Los Angeles Rams, because, and we've talked about it on this show, they've drafted well. They drafted well the year before. They have some young guys coming. They're ready to rock and roll. So then they can very well be a main player in the NFC when we had this conversation. But DP, let's wrap this show up with what, man, we're going to talk about breakout wide receiver candidates. Which guys didn't show up in their rookie year, but second year, they are going to come through. They're going to play towards their college film and they're in better situations. We're going to talk about all that and more coming up next.
Thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout out for being our everydayers. Keith, break out wide receiver candidates from the 2023 NFL Draft. I got to go to the Big Apple and not to the Jets. I'm going to the Giants, Jalin Hyatt. And I'm going to tell you why I think.
Yeah, you got to tell me why, DP. I want to buy in, but that situation, listen, I'll tell you this, DP. The Daniel Jones situation combined with Hard Knocks, there's not a lot of stock in there for Keith, man. Keith is not buying a lot of stock in this Giant situation.
You know, right, I'm not on the Daniel Jones train myself either. You know,
yeah, that. I'm kind of out. If you have to be honest, I'm kind of out. I'm not liking what I see. The decision making behind the decisions that were made, right? And this is a draft podcast. That's what it's good to talk about.
Yes,
I'm out. So, but let's talk about Daniel Jones. Let's talk about Jalin Hyatt.
Yeah, it was tough, right? You know, 40 targets, 23 receptions in 17 games last year, 373 receiving yards, landed himself as like the 20th in terms of rookie receiving yards with tight ends and rookies and receivers combined. Of course, most of that without Daniel Jones.
You said 40. I don't mean to cut you off.
40 targets.
We got to get to this, right? This is the guy we talking about. 40 targets for the entire season. How many games did he play? Do you 17. Have? He played 17 games. So 2 targets per game.
Somewhere in there.
And so people want to know why receivers are mad. This is why wide receivers get mad, DP. Would you not be mad if you did your job all day long? The ball only came to you twice. So when you call wide receivers divas, this is why they're angry. It's because they run routes. They run 50, 60 routes a game. And then they get the ball thrown at them twice. And maybe we don't even know if it's good balls, right? It's just somewhere in the vicinity for it to register as a
his target. Quarterback for a good portion of the season was Tommy Colcuts.
Right.
You know what I mean? Right. I'm sorry. I'm not taking anything with the name Tommy Colcuts that serious in terms of accuracy and ball placement. The best quarterback they had was Tyrod Taylor, who they did not bring back, if I remember correctly. So,
yeah, he's with the Jets now. He's with the Jets.
Yeah, he's with the Jets. So, like, that was a mistake on their part, in my opinion. You should have brought him back. And I think the reason why I'm believing in Jalin Hyatt, right? For one, I'm starting with the head coach. Brian Daboll, I love the dude. I love him. Like, not just from the Hard Knock series, but I was a big fan of his offensive concepts, what he does, you know, his history, going back to Bama with Jalen Hurts and Tua Tagovailoa, like everything, like his time in New England. This man knows how to dial it up. He knows how to exploit defenses and everything. And I think with the speed of Jalin Hyatt, finding ways to get him free. But it's the guy they drafted this year, Malik Neighbors. I think Malik Neighbors is going to be the catalyst to Jalin Hyatt breaking out and having a better season in 2024 because he's going to be the needle mover. He's going to be the guy, as I always say, where's Waldo? When they break the huddle, defenses are going to look for the rookie and say, where is Malik Neighbors? Where is number 8? And when they find him, especially once he starts rolling, Keith, and like watching the Hard Knocks. For those who haven't watched it this week, they showed the interview with Malik Neighbors and Brian Daboll and Joe Shane, the GM, and they asked him like, "Hey, so how do you handle losing?" He said, "I hate it. I don't handle it well." He was like, "Okay, neither do we. Like we want to win too." He was like, "All right, how do you handle not getting the ball early in games?" And he was like, he displayed his disdain about it. He doesn't like it. He doesn't appreciate it. He's like, I do all this work in like kind of what you talk about, do all this work in practice, getting the game plan down. And if I'm not getting the ball early on, I'm not happy about that. And that's when, Brian Daboll had a smirk on his face. He liked it clearly because they drafted him. And he said, I like that. You just got to channel it the right way. And we can really do some things. I expect Malik Neighbors to be heavily involved early in games for this passing attack. And once he gets going, that's going to draw so much more attention to him. And that's going to open up Jalin Hyatt. And I think with them being able to, I think they're going to have a solid run game with Eric Gray, who we talked about, with Devin Singletary, get this offensive line figured out in terms of where Evan Neal's going to play. And I think if they do that, Keith, I think Jalin Hyatt could absolutely have not a 12, 1300-yard receiving season, but he had 300 and some change last year. Like, yeah, we get 800 yards. That's a breakout for you, buddy. So for me, it's like, if we can get you up there, I think Malik Neighbors is going to open up a lot for him. And truthfully, talent-wise, he might be their second best receiver on the team.
DP.
The look on your face, bro.
the silence is there because I'm having a tough time with this one. I'm having a tough time. I did not see that part of the episode, but let's get back to the wide receivers. I was about to break that down. Let's go with the wide receivers. I agree with you. Breakout candidate. Let's go in on Jalin Hyatt, right? Who knows? Let's go for it. I'm gonna go with I'm gonna switch it up and I'm gonna be happy, right? And I know you're gonna be happy with this selection. Breakout wide receiver candidate for me is going to be Josh Downs. I think Josh Downs, he emerges this year. I think a full, healthy Anthony Richardson. I think that RPO action is one thing that it opens up, DP, is the slot wide receiver, right? Because you're talking about those corners, those nickels, having to be involved in the run game, talking about the safeties having to be involved in the run game, linebackers, whatever, right? And then I think it's going to give Josh Downs, is going to open him up for some quick, easy targets, but then also we talk about how big this wide receiver core is, right? We're talking about everybody 6'1", 6'2", 6'3", tight end 6'6", 6'7". He's the only guy built of his frame, right? And AD Mitchell is a talented guy too, but he's the only guy built with his frame and his skill set. So I could imagine just how the Patriots used to use those slot wide receivers. And we was like, man, all these small guys operating in the middle of the field. The Patriots kind of evolved the slot wide receiver position, right? As far as how important it is. And I think Josh Downs, him being a smart guy, I think he's going to come in and he's going to do some really good things for the Indianapolis Colts this year. So that's why I'm going to pick him as my breakout candidate for 2024.
No, I like that. I think he had 700 yards last year, and that was mostly without Anthony Richardson. Bring Anthony Richardson into the fold, and I think he can have a much bigger season. Because I think similar to Tank Dell, how we talk about Tank Dell and CJ Stroud relationship, I feel like that relationship is the same thing in Indianapolis with Josh Downs and Anthony Richardson, where he could be that safety blanket for him, especially quick game, 3rd and 5. You're trying to stop all the big outside guys, the vertical threats. And it's like, yep, this whip route's going to be there all day. Boom. Easy money. You know what I mean? I'm going to throw one name out there real quick before we close out the show. Arizona Cardinals, Michael Wilson. A guy last year, we know that Marvin Harrison Jr. coming into the fold. Michael Wilson had 58 targets, 38 receptions, 565 yards. He averaged 15 yards per catch, and he only played 13 seasons. He missed 13 games. He missed 4 games last year, which has kind of been the thing for him, is like dealing with some injuries. If he stays healthy, man, this could be a big season for him, because when Marvin Harrison's going to get the number 1 corner. Trey McBride is about to jump into that next tier of top tight ends after what he put on tape last year. So who's the next guy that teams aren't really – and James Conner in the backfield, by the way, and Kyler Murray under center, they're not going to focus in on as much on Michael Wilson. I think he's going to have some advantageous matchups week to week, and I think, that for one, they were able to get him the football anyway. I think Kyler Murray's going to be able to push the ball down the field, give him, like you talked about earlier, quality targets. I think Michael Wilson could be a guy that we need to keep our eyes on. I think he can have a really nice year in 2024, being that wide receiver 2, but probably target 3 behind Marvin and Trey McBride.
Yeah, DP, I have to get eyes on Michael Wilson. I know you talked about him. I watched him for the film breakdown that you did. But that was during the season last year. I watched some of them, but I had to get eyes on him all the way. But I like the name pull. I respect the name pull, because I think he's still an under the radar football player. But to come out there as a rookie in a somewhat dysfunctional situation as far as with the quarterback, right? It was volatile. Kyler Murray coming off of ACL injury. You had Josh Dobbs for at the beginning of the season, and he was hurt for 3 or 4 of those games and still able to put those numbers up. So you can see an easy path for this guy to potentially scratch 900 yards to 1,000 yards as a wide receiver. So we'll see. But DP, That wraps up another episode, man, of the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast. I want to say shout out to our everydayers. Thank you for tapping in with us each and every single day. If you can hear my voice, go ahead and hit that like button. Don't forget to comment and make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel over at Locked On NFL Draft. I am Keith Sanchez. You can find me on X at The Talent Code. That right there is my guy, my co-host, Mr. Damian Parson. You can find him on X at DP_NFL. Like we always like to say, man, y'all come talk to us because we like to talk back.
Go subscribe and follow for free on YouTube. Wherever you listen to podcasts, get the latest episode as soon as it is available. Thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and everyday shot for being our everydayers. On tomorrow's show, we're going to get into which tight ends from the 2023 NFL Draft class. Stock is up. Who's going to be the best tight end? Who needs to show up? All that good stuff. Breakout candidates potentially. We'll talk about all that and more on tomorrow's show. So come and join the conversation again tomorrow on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.